Morning, everybody. Chapter 6. School days. Because of the overcrowding at school, on some weekdays we did not go to there for lessons but went on a Saturday instead. On the days when we weren't in school, we visited historical sites like Goodrich and Wilton Castles, which were near Ross-on-Wye. It was a wonderful way to have a history lesson. We also visited abbeys and farms to see the animals, as well as going on nature walks to learn about wild flowers. It was much more exciting than sitting in a classroom. Miss Harries, the domestic science teacher, taught us to cook using very limited ingredients available on ration. Eggs were hard to come by, and we had to use powdered egg instead. Dehydrated egg was a bright yellow powder and was supposed to take the place of real eggs in cooking when making cakes and puddings, but they never tasted the same as when real eggs were used. Mr. Wagstaff taught French and used to stamp our homework with his special stamp that said, Félicitations de ton professeur, which means, congratulations from your teacher, even if our work had not been very good. Mr. Coates taught art and gave me a great love of the subject, which has lasted all my life. He encouraged us to draw everything around us, everything from comfortable easy chairs to kitchen utensils. We had to use watered-down coloured ink called monochrome because the school had no paints, and we could not use the dwindling stocks of watercolour paints used by the Ross pupils. Later, schools used tins of powder paints, which were mixed with water to make thick or thin colours as required. These were very effective and were used long after the war ended. Mr. Nichols taught us singing in the mission hall, which was also used for PE and midday meals, which were cooked by two of the master's wives. He used to turn the back of the piano towards us and stand up to play so he could look at us over the top as we sang, so we would not misbehave. We sang English folk songs like Bobby Shafto and the British Grenadiers. Often his wife, who had a beautiful soprano voice, would sing a new song first so we could learn it by hearing it. Sometimes Mr. Nichols was a bit late for our singing lesson in the mission hall, and then we used to play around until he arrived. One day I was trying to balance on the back of a bench and fell off, banging my chin on the piano. I broke my two front teeth, but I didn't feel any pain as I only broke the tops off. However, I spent the whole lesson trying to sing with a mouthful of tiny splinters of teeth, as I couldn't really tell Mr. Nichols what I'd been up to. I never looked the same afterwards and hoped no one would notice this change in my appearance. The staff at George Green School were like parents to us and cared for us in many ways apart from their teaching duties. The younger pupils were billeted out and lived with local families in and around Ross, but the older boys lived in a hostel which had been the Chasedale Hotel before the war, where they were looked after by Mr. Humphreys. Mr. Wagstaff and the teachers' wives lived in another hostel, Brookfield, with the older girls. The senior boys dug up part of the back garden at Chasedale in order to plant vegetables to help with the school meals. No spare ground was left for grass as every space was needed to grow food, but the teacher who was in charge of the gardening knew nothing about planting anything, so they put in the onions upside down. They took a long time to grow, but they did in the end. They managed better with planting potatoes, and the boys provided most of the potatoes that we ate with our school dinners. Miss Downing, the senior mistress, organised plays to be acted on the lawn at Chasedale. The older pupils took part in Shakespearean plays with the help of the Ross Grammar School pupils. I was in a play about Pandora's box as a member of the chorus. Our costumes, which were simple tunics, were cut out of washed sacking material. In art class we printed a Greek key pattern along the edges with potato prints. The boy who was to play the part of Narcissus disappeared at the dress rehearsal as soon as he saw the costume he was expecting to wear, which looked like a knee-length satin dress, and that proved to be the end of his acting career. On the day of the performance, a wind-up record player placed on the lawn provided the background music. The dancing consisted of making shapes in groups to music, known then as Greek dancing. The shrubbery at the side of the lawn was used like the scenery in a theatre, and we all tripped off behind the bushes when our part had finished. The school staff and the other people in the audience seemed to enjoy the performance as much as the pupils taking part. It would have been nice if Mrs. Warren had been invited to see Pandora's box, but of course they could not invite all the Evacuee's foster parents, and so I did not know anybody in the audience apart from members of the staff. Time whizzed by at our temporary school, and before I knew it, the Christmas holiday had arrived. I was put on the train to travel to Paddington Station, where, to my joy, my mother was waiting to collect me and take me home for Christmas.